Ladies and gentlemen, we love that you are joining us here, and we hope that you could do us a favor. If you are liking our episodes, please share them. Tell us that you like them. Leave us a review, and we will be eternally grateful.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the priestess speaking. You are with the wizard and the priestess today, and we hope to take you on a nice little journey to lift you up and excite you about what lay ahead. Starting with a fun little joke. Take it away, Matt.
Dad told me, he sort of asked me, what starts with F and ends in K? I said, no, it doesn't. So
What? I don't get it.
I didn't think you'd get that one.
Go again. Go again.
He said, what starts with F and ends in K? I said, no, it doesn't. Don't worry, you'll get there one day.
I still don't get it.
Yeah.
But starts with F and ends in K, and you said no, it doesn't.
What? The fact that I'm having to explain this, I think we've spent way too long. Some of us are ready to move on in life. Don't dwell on the past, Nola.
What starts with F?
What starts with F and ends in K? No, it doesn't.
Got it.
Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
What
Tune in next time. It'll be our longest ever episode.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I thought you were going to hit me with something really funny to uplift the people.
No, you're ridiculous.
But I guess that is a really funny thing. And then what did he say? When you said, no, it doesn't. What was his response? Come on.
I feel like more guys would be laughing at this right now than females.
Okay, I guess you're probably right.
Yeah.
Well, guys, last week, was it last week? Last week was the full moon. And as I traverse the new way of looking at the moon, I'll have you know that whilst the full moon actually began, this is crazy town. So now I'm using an app, everyone, if you're interested. I use Night Sky. And what I do is I point it to the sky at the moon and I see what constellations are wrapping around it. And that tells me what's actually going on energetically around the moon specifically.
And is it accurate, unlike your previous discovery?
Yes. So this is essentially, I would say, would be the correlative Vedic tradition, sidereal or sidereal. And that is, so that is related to what's going on in the sky. And what happened on the full moon was that it actually, over the course of the full moon, the moon started, the sun was still in Aries, and the moon started in Libra. And then so the moon is in fullness for like a little bit more than a day, like just under 2 days. And it started in Libra and Aries, and then it transitioned into, or like Scorpio, then the Scorpio constellation then encompassed the moon, as did the sun move into Taurus. So that actually happened over the full moon, which was quite cool, because if you were a Western astrologer and you're committed to that form of astrology, it was the Scorpio full moon, and the Scorpio full moon was already in Taurus because Taurus had already come in. But if you're looking at it from actual sky, what's actually going on, it was a transition over the night.
So how does that influence most people?
Well, it's sort of then, from my perspective, so the way that I like to play with this, and this is something that I've been doing more and more with, is like what's going on around me in the seasons. So what's actually going on? And the coolest thing about living where I live now is that I see the seasons much more clearly. And so at the moment, we're seeing the change. Like there's lots of maple trees, which, if you've got any deciduous trees right now, all of the trees, the leaves should be changing colors. And then they're potentially already falling. And depending on where you're located I'm talking Australia or Southern Hemisphere, you'd be seeing this autumn energy coming in. And it hasn't actually hit the point where it all lets go. It is still it's still changing colors. It's in transition. So when we think about that and we think about these constellations in the sky, well, from a northern hemisphere perspective, they're going to say that the constellations correlate to this or that. But from the southern hemisphere, we sort of look at it on a flip side. At least that's what me and Morgana have been working with, is that we're more correlating the constellation in the sky to what we're seeing on the earth. So what we're seeing on the earth is this softening, this cooling down, the changing of the colors of the leaves. They're starting to fall. They may not have completely fallen. As I live like in the countryside, I see so many more trees, and native Australian trees are not deciduous. Whilst there may be some, there are not many, or at least that's not what we see. And so something that Morgana has spoken to me about very recently was the idea that they don't need to lose their leaves because they have worked out a way to conserve their energy without losing everything. So that sort of feels really interesting in a sense that Australia is a hotter country, a hotter climate. We don't tend to get to that really, really cold that the Northern Hemisphere or a lot of the Western Northern Hemisphere countries experience. So whilst we are slowing down, we sort of maintain enough energy internally to keep going. So we just need to, I guess, if you are feeling right now that you are lacking motivation and you're not really sure how to take the right step forward or what direction you should be going, well, this is this point in the cycle of this year, especially if you're in Australia, that is inviting you to figure out a way to conserve your energy while still doing what needs to be done. Slightly different to if you lived in the snow, where you would actually have to be harvesting all your food, stacking it up, and savoring it for the winter season ahead. We're in a bit of a different place where we can actually still grow really good quality food. We have the ability to keep growing and keep living whilst conserving our energy instead of completely preparing for hibernation. So, as my daughters would say, so there you have it. So,
well, there's several seasons, right? There's the season of the weather. There's also rhythmic seasons, as you've said more than once, about the cycles within the cycles. So I know, like, think of a shamanic season or a shamanic year, let's say, where you'd have the summer represents the action season. So you might, I'll just use a building analogy because there's a construction site next door. They're in the summer phase because it's action, 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 move, 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 build, build, build. Before that had to happen, there was a spring phase, the planning of the building. So they planned the building, got it all ready. Now they're in the summer phase, which will go for maybe, I think, another year and a bit, let's say. And then after that, they sell the building or sell parts of the building or however that works. So that's the autumn or the fall, that's where you harvest the fruits of your labor. And then from that can take X amount of time as well. From there, you go into the winter phase. The winter phase is about rest and rejuvenation. And then you get motivation and do the spring thing, planning, action, harvest. And that's just a cycle within itself. Doesn't necessarily go within 3 months or a year or however it works, but it can be over any length of time. Where most people get a bit confused is they go from spring, summer, autumn straight back to spring, and they don't take that rest, the winter period. So a lot of people's energy now in the southern hemisphere is starting to wind down because their biology and physiology are getting ready for winter. But in our culture, it's always summer, it's always spring, it's always autumn. Don't know where I was going with that, but that's just what.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I think I just want to add to that and say we also have, whilst we can, do the building construction like you're experiencing, and that's like a 3-year build or whatever it might be, it's going against the biological foundation that we are connected to when it comes to connecting to nature. And I find that the more I connect to the seasons based upon what I'm seeing, rather than what the calendar tells me, rather than what my life's telling me, rather than what anything else, if I watch the seasons around me and watch how nature gently moves in all of her glory, with the slowness and steady pace, and the watching specifically the autumn season at this point in time, is like it moves a lot slower than we think. The trees don't change color overnight. They change each day I drive out to the city, the town. And when I drive there, it's like it's gone from green through to yellows. Now we're moving towards orange. There's trees there that are still green, and they're wrapped around the trees that are orange. And there's 50 trees along this part of the road, which is literally set on fire. It's not really, it's the trees turning orange, but it looks just so beautiful. But it reminds me so much of this gentle, really gentle transition period. And yeah, what you're really getting to is this idea that we must sort of harvest and then we must rest. And so if you're starting to feel, especially in a year, and a year that is all about the snake, that is all about the shedding and the transformation. We are in autumn, which is such a shedding. It's almost like a potent, very potent piece of the year is now. And so a lot of people would be, me included, going, wow, how much more let go do I have to withstand until I find where I'm meant to be, until I find the peace, the rest, the hibernation, that real deep, complete slowdown. And as I watch these leaves transition and change, and I feel lots transitioning and changing within me, I actually find so much more peace. And in the let go, I'm finding more and more peace. In the surrender, I'm finding more and more peace. Instead, and in the trust, I'm finding more and more peace. So I feel in this moment, when we kind of bring that around to this idea of motivation might be waning, well, that makes perfect sense, because the motivation should be springing in springtime and naturally diminishing through the autumn time in its perfection flow, perfect flow.
But you know what also a lack of motivation is?
What, Matt?
Burnout.
Oh, yes.
Your body, mind, spirit complex can only handle thinking so much at a given time. So if it has been a period for people, then let yourself off the hook a little, because it's likely your soul just needing a rest. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 10 months. And depending on your situation, it's screaming just for you to be still. And that's what ideally winter's all about. And then give yourself permission when that spring, and not necessarily the weather, the season of spring, but just the season within yourself. When that starts to waken up, then just follow that. You'll know it feels right because it will be almost effortless when you just follow it. And
I'm
you'll
wondering. Okay, sorry. You'll find.
There you go.
No, I want to hear.
I know
what
you're still
gonna
trying
say.
to find
When
that
you
joke
find-
from before. So what are you trying to find now?
I'm trying to find where you were going. The last little piece you were going to say then, when you allow the springtime to kind of move you, it's easeful. And then you'll find
It's very easy. It's very, you could say, springy. And it'll feel like a labor of love.
Mm.
If you allow it to be.
Yeah, fully. So my question is then, yeah, I'll give you my opinion after I hear yours. And would you say that someone should, no, what's that word? When you don't like kind of move away from the nature of it all and come into their own personal nature. So what you said just then was that, like irrespective of what's going on in this current seasons, focus on your internal seasons.
Exactly what I'm saying. But also, here's where it
And
can
why
get,
would you say that though?
because here is where it gets a bit tricky though. So a lot of people, if you've moved here from overseas, let's say, your physiology and biology might be tapped into your original time zone. So I know several people who have moved here, one British, the other one Dutch, I think.
German?
And but they get sick a lot, and they're what we would consider night owls. But when it's nighttime here, it's sunny, it's daytime over there. But they're just tapped into that, and every time they go back home, they normalize their rhythms. And they come back out here because they live here. They're up all night, and they're just more susceptible to colds and flus and whatnot. So that plays a little part. But sorry, can you remind me of the question again?
No, but I'll pull apart what you're saying because I feel like that is them not fully grounding themselves on the earth that they're upon. They haven't fully let go of what they've left back home, and they're living in a place of longing and therefore lacking belonging.
Could be.
Because where I was going to go was I truly think that when we reconnect to the nature that is around us and we follow the seasons as they are playing out with us, energetically there is only peace because it's just pure flow. And our body's compass will naturally drive us up and down cyclically day to day because there's a 24-hour clock from the sunshine. But I think if us as humans can really reconnect to the movements of the natural world around us, we will find that so much more goodness will come, so much more potent energy in springtime. We actually will feel this moment now that is autumn, that is the big let go, and we will actually let go. And you'll find that businesses will thrive more because they actually accept that in this season of time, there's a big transitional change and that people need this time to transition with that. And then when it's wintertime, it doesn't mean you stop. And especially Australia, we might have like the superpower of that because we look at nature and nature doesn't stop. And whilst, in a northern hemisphere, or especially in a snowy country, like for example, Canada, who has 4 full seasons, like their winters are like, so cold and nothing is growing. It's like completely like quiet and silent outside. They personally makes more sense that they actually do hibernate. Whereas for us, we still get quite a lot of sun. We still have green grass that's growing through the winter in most of Australia. We still have trees with leaves, green leaves on them. So we have this superpower of like being able to potentially because we have so much sun as humans living in this region, we may have more stamina, but then we must live within the realms of the seasons that are around us so that we maintain health in accordance to that.
Well, we're designed to be in sync with those rhythms, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the trap with the so much sun is the burnout as well, because the sun's out and things, aren't snowed in. Well, not at least most of Australia in the mountain. Well, what we call mountains, more like hills, but
No one's living in the hills though, where the snow is more.
Except the people who do live there.
There's not that many that live in.
No, but there's people there
where the snow is.
And that's kind of that's ironic because that's their busy season.
Yeah.
So,
well, actually think again, because now what's actually busier is the bike season, downhill biking.
So going with.
So they might be busy now all year round, which they're capable of doing because in Australia, we conserve our energy because of the amount of sun we get.
Do we conserve it though?
No, but I agree. There's a point, but I have to admit, I never treated burnout in Australia the way that I treated it in Sweden. Every 50 to 60-year-old patient I treated in Sweden was a case of burnout.
What about younger? Say 20 to 50.
Yeah, there was definitely burnout cases, which in Australia, I don't like a lot of they wouldn't be called burnout. They'd be called chronic fatigue. I've only treated one case of chronic fatigue that I can think of that comes to mind quickly. There's obviously tired people, but but I would say that I would have comparatively, there was a lot more burnout in Sweden. And I would say that is because they are not living with their seasons. And I only have that experience because I have lived and worked in both countries. And in Sweden, you don't slow down for the winter. You just wear thicker jumper or a bigger jacket. There's no feeling of hibernation that occurs. There's still constant springtime planning and.
Was there a correlation of burnout summer, winter? Like more people in winter? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Or it could actually have even been springtime that it all came to head because they couldn't actually activate that ascension. There was no more to give because they didn't actually rest through the wintertime. So I actually often have shared that people that live in the wintertime will live in Sweden. They do need to fly south for winter to, unless you're going to stop, unless you're going to completely slow down and follow your season that is within you, that is there guiding you.
So you're saying this is a public service announcement for the entire country of Sweden, maybe even Scandinavia, to fly south for the winter.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And then for Australians right now, I want you to go outside and relish in your natural habitat. And that's something that I feel like I never did. This is really, I don't know, awkward. But I never had rain clothes for my kids. I had a raincoat and gum boots, but living here, living in nature where you have to have all these things because your kid's going to get wet if they go outside and it's dewy or because the dew can sit in the mountains here for until 11 o'clock. So if they go outside before 11 a.m., they're going to be wet, whether or not it's cold. So it's quite interesting now that I'm so much, because I am immersed in nature, it is so much, I'm so much more in nature too. I see it and I'm closer to it and we're surrounded by it, we're in it more. Whereas I found living on the beach, all I was connecting to the ocean, which I do definitely.
Question.
Hmm?
for you?
Mm-hmm.
I know we're recording this on Wednesday, so do you want me to ask it in Spanish?
Yes.
Entonces, por todo el mundo, ¿cuáles los
Sí.
tiempos por cada día?
¿Cómo estás?
So, for most people,
Por favor,
what
señorita.
are the seasons throughout the day for people? So we're talking kind of like over an extended period of time, of linear time as we measure it. But what about, say, from wake up to sleepy time?
La primavera es mi estación favorita.
Muy bien, continuare.
All right, I got nothing.
Diga.
La primavera es mi estación favorita.
Spring is your favorite season. Well done.
Thank you. Now, what did you say in English? I was busy.
Clearly. Throughout the day, we're talking about seasons. Most people correlate seasons over a year or extended period of time.
Mm-hmm.
How can one normalize their seasons that, let's say, all seasons happen in a day, and I'm not talking about Melbourne, within our own cycles?
Well, then in the morning the sun comes up. That is the springtime.
Mm-hmm.
Then by the middle of the day you have a summer. By mid-afternoon, the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Summer is the middle of the day, the hottest. Yeah. By that mid-afternoon, you're looking at late summer, that 3 p.m. slump that people get. That's kind of your late summer moving into autumn. Then autumn will continue until you sort of go to bed. And then you go back into winter.
Okay. So that correlates nicely with the hormonal system, doesn't it?
Yeah, in relation to what do we wake up with? Like, is it testosterone that brings us up in the morning?
Cortisol.
Oh, cortisol. Yeah, that's right.
Cortisol wakes us up and gets us going. Then we have a steady supply of cortisol till around lunchtime. Then it starts to dip slightly. And we get the dip when I think it's the crossover takeover thresholdy bit between cortisol and melatonin. And as melatonin up, but a lot of things affect cortisol. A lot of things affect melatonin as well. But it's our environment as well. So, for example, I can't remember when we were talking about it, about artificial lights and sleeping.
Mm.
Can't remember what we were talking about, but all that
maybe
stuff.
Gimmicks. Or health life gimmicks.
Oh, the life hacks. So when you're exposed to light when it's dark outside, you're going, let's say you go back home, watch the TV or turn the lights on bright. That's still telling your system to turn on. When the sun goes down, we're not designed for lights. I think you've got is it an hour after the sun goes down?
It usually you've got like a few more hours than once the sun sets, but
no, but I mean for the light thing to be really effective.
What light thing?
I think hormonally, I read it depends study to study, but when the sun goes down, that hour between sun going down and getting like dark, that's the time you can have your light. And then the further past that hour, the more impact light has on you.
Yeah, and I would say that that's likely, but think about it. If you spent the day, I think that's going to have a more negative impact if you are spending the day under unnatural light. If you spent the day outside, so you did this, if you're watching, you see my hand going up, like you woke up in the morning as the sun rose, you then vibrant through the day, and then you start to set with the sun, and you get home and you slow down and you rest into a nice meal with your family, and then you might light a candle at this time of the year. And then you turn your light on whilst everything's still going down. That light kind of keeps you here, but it doesn't bring you back to here. Do you know what I'm saying? It only just like keeps, see the bottom, my fingers are just like, that's the light turning on at night. We're still here, hi. But once the lights go off, then we go back down and we go into like the death cycle or the, renewal happening overnight. But if you are not in natural light through the day, then you stay here and then you go home and your hormones are trying to shift down. But then what actually happens, because naturally you've been in the light and you haven't been in natural light all day, then the cortisol keeps peaking you up and you actually come back to that point. But I would say that it has a huge impact on whether you're in natural light or not, because if through the day and following the cyclical rhythm, being in nature is obviously the answer to so many problems, because cortisol and dopamine are going to like bring us up in the morning. And then, in the middle of the day, we've got like that serotonin, like feeling really exotic. And then as it goes down, like we're slowing down as we are, but naturally we're processing a lot as well. And the autumn time is a lot of processing happening as well as we transition. We're transitioning out. We're harvesting all the things. We're learning all the lessons. We're kind of moving through. So I think what I just want to get to is just the importance of using the nature that is around you and being outside so that you can capitalize on your hormone system. And if you need to be in light in the evening, ideally you have spent enough time in the outdoors during the day just to like balance that out.
You can also have your lights on dim or candlelight.
And actually there's in Bunnings now they sell the bio lights. So you don't need to buy them online. Bunnings sell the bio lights.
Like it actually produces the same light, can't remember what it's called, light measure as the sun?
I'm not sure, but it has 3 different light phases. So in the nighttime you use the orange light.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that is all as far as I know. All I know is that it definitely helps you maintain your circadian rhythm and helps you like stay in that calm. That's kind of like this. Oh, hang on. Oh, there. It's like you've gone back to sleep, and then there's just that light that's just keeping you slightly awake, and then
just enough so you can see the path.
Just enough so you can see, so you can get to your bedroom, or that you can, sit and see someone else's face, and you can communicate a little bit, and then it turns off. But then obviously, if you've got the light on, then you've got the TV on, and you're sitting by your phone, and then you're feeling like
then your
back
brain
to
thinks
work.
It's midday.
Yeah. So that's a bit confusing. But I think more than anything is just what I want to come back to is the peace and joy that is this season. And the more that we connect to our seasons, connect to what's going on in nature around us. So if you're living somewhere right now and actually it's still warm, like you don't need a jumper yet, you're not wearing socks, you're northern Australia, like North Australia, you're going to be hot still. So you're not really necessarily going to be going into the slowing down pace, but we have to really find and lean into what biologically serves ourselves. And that's what I think your Dutch and English and German people might need to do is reconnect to, well, what roots them here and anchors them here in this space so that they can really let go, instead of like right now the spring is trying to spring in Europe and therefore they're going up. Yeah.
2 words. Nuala?
What?
3 words. Seasonal eating. Discuss.
Was that 2 or 3 words? 'Cause seasonal eating is 2.
Eating. Discuss.
Yeah, well, obviously seasonal eating is the most optimal way of eating food, especially for our whole system is I hope I have made it quite clear that our systems are primed for the nature with which we are living amongst. And so it makes perfect sense that our seasons therefore impact the food that grows and then the way that that can nourish us as human beings. So currently, if you are growing your own food in the area that we are, everything's root vegetables. So in the Southern Hemisphere, we're going deep into the earth. Or not everything's root vegetables, but we're starting to prepare the beds for putting those in to then be prepared for spring harvest or winter harvest. So that's like, your potatoes, your sweet potatoes. Pumpkins can grow pretty much all year round, but the best pumpkins grow soon or start to grow soon. And then you have, your broccolis and your beetroots and cauliflowers, and then all your grass, like leafy greens and things like that. So
what about fruits?
Yeah, well, there's like your citrus fruits and things that are growing now. But I feel like personally, I'm learning a lot of this. Like naturally, I gravitate to warmer foods, cooked foods, in general, but especially through the winter seasons, I'll definitely drink more teas, and through the summertime, I'll have more like spring, like cooler drinks or juices and things like that. So I'm kind of more a temperate person but now with our big garden and really connecting more to having our garden, like living on property. We have a lot of space to grow lots of different things like peas and seeing what actually is growing. Like I didn't really think about that lettuce and like lots of different lettuces, and I knew kale grew in the wintertime, but I thought that was the leafy greens that grew in the wintertime. But actually a lot of lettuces, a lot of different styles of lettuce grow more in the winter, or like our winter, Southern Hemisphere,
Are you
New South Wales.
predominantly veg? Can't remember.
No. I'm a eater of food. All food. I'll eat everything. Anything and everything. I opt for organic food. I opt for like fresh produce, but I definitely eat everything.
So we're in autumn or fall.
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming into winter.
Mm-hmm.
So things like blueberries, strawberries, mangoes, banana, pineapple. Am I missing something?
Apple.
Or all the summer fruits.
Oh, the summer fruits.
They're
Okay.
now not in season anymore.
Avocado.
Is that a summer thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you go to a shop and you see the avocados, the mangoes, pineapple, all the summer fruits, how far do you think they've traveled to be there? So guarantee they weren't grown locally. So that's going to have a huge impact on nutritional value, maybe even price as well.
For sure price, but I would say like even biological value. Like
That's what I mean.
I feel like yeah, right. I feel like I feel me right now I'm in a bit of a biological phase of living, and I think that it becomes more humanness, more like everything is, instead of we're so used to breaking things down to prices and like cost of living and all those things, and then climate aspects of like how far the truck had to drive to get it to you and the impact that it had, and then like frozen or how fresh the fruit probably was because it's moved so far. But like because of Australia being so big, things are going to travel a lot further in general if you live in the beaches of Cronulla, because even that, like to travel that 2 hours from the local, or an hour from the closest farm is going to be further than, if you're living in the south of France and you literally live next door to the farms or whatever. You can collect all those things. Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. Sorry, I digress. Go on, Matthew.
I don't know how to follow that up. So what do you do if you're
Just
in
how
Sweden? What do you do
Yeah.
then in Sweden where the ground freezes, presumably, in
Yeah.
winter,
Hmm?
and you love vegetables?
You pay top dollar for them to be flown in.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you should have flown south for the winter, but you keep living in this space, and it's interesting. We actually went organic when we lived in Sweden, so we transitioned everything to organic. We'd opt for organic produce, and I think I was paying $5 per capsicum, and I didn't bat an eyelid. I just was like, that's just the cost of a capsicum. And I remember friends of ours were like, "What? How are you spending so much?" And I was like, "Just because that's just the cost it is. It just doesn't matter to me. I would rather spend." So that's where I opt for better quality over locally produced. So then tomatoes are all grown in Spain in the wintertime. I mean, I feel like through the summertime too, they're probably more cheaply grown in Spain, and the growing season in Sweden, might not be that lucrative.
I know
Whilst
on that kind of latitude, things like that don't grow. The season isn't as long, but they grow bigger because there's more sunlight.
Yes, that's interesting. I wouldn't say that has been something that I noticed as a consumer. I'd say that we here have much bigger pumpkins than I have seen over there. But once again, I'm seeing pumpkins on a farm, not the ones that have been chosen for.
And if you eat good quality organic or grass-fed meat, then you already have the condensed vegetable nutrition in the meat. So yeah,
interesting. It's an interesting idea, isn't it? That what the animal eats is what you eat, kind of thing. What the animal experiences is what you consume.
Yeah. But then most animals, unfortunately, are fed grain, which we've touched on this several times before, which ultimately inflames the animal. We eat the inflamed meat and wonder why we got sore spots all over.
Yeah, layers upon layers. And I'd say that that's like a lot of dairy is consumed in Sweden.
Is it raw or is it pasteurized over there?
Pasteurized. Yeah.
Half surprising. Raw is where it's at. I think it's illegal in most. I think most of Australia.
It's illegal to take off the property, but if you were to go and sit and milk a cow and drink their milk, you're allowed to do that.
Is that here or there?
Here.
Yeah. Good to know.
So you could get yourself a cow, you could drink their milk.
Maybe I will.
Next minute, Matt's roommate. He might not have a wife, but ladies and gentlemen, he's got a cow.
So many jokes there.
Oh, I'm not going there. Stay out of the gutter. Stay out of the gutter. You are not bigger than that. But anyway, so bringing it all around, seasonally, humans, we are beautiful earth beings, and we are capable of living upon the earth.
I mean, we're designed to be happy and joyful. And if you're anything but, you can take a look at your internal season, how your body's rhythms are, how you're functioning and how you feel day to day. But your external seasons, the environment you're in, are you in tune with the environment you're in? Are you flowing with that? If you're not sure, pay attention to how you feel, because if you're in some kind of pain, that's usually a pretty good indication.
Yeah, and it makes me think of something that I worked on quite a bit last year, as we are coming up to the 12 months from the moment I stopped working in the clinic. And what I was working on at that time was essentially how we work through the season of pregnancy and how a woman can really blossom through that time, understanding her own season and her own, like, and the seasons within the season of pregnancy and the potency that is. And if you're interested in learning more, you can, because I actually still have my workshop on offer on our website. So you could check that out if you or someone you know is pregnant or is aiming to be pregnant, because it is definitely, I think, one of the most downplayed aspects of women who are on a preconception journey is the connection or getting connected to your nature and getting connected to the abundance that is available to you.
That's wizardandthepriestess.com. What's that called? The course or the program?
I think it's called pregnancy workshop.
Is it masterclass?
Essentially, masterclass. That's right.
Pregnancy masterclass.
Pregnancy masterclass. Yeah, and the links are in our link tree on our Instagram, or the link is in the show notes. But yeah, so that's just something like I really found through my pregnancy with Aqua, just the power, the potency that was to follow those signs, to follow the season and to follow the month by month season that is set out for us in essentially opening up this idea of birthing the tower, birthing and growing through our pregnancy and experiencing what we can to support our child. And I feel like Aqua's an absolute angel, and she has definitely created a whole new way of viewing children and little children. She's, as I said, she's been around on this earthly plane for almost a year. And it's definitely making me think about the seasons that I've traversed and what I'm traversing now as a mother of 3, and how I sort of thought things would look very differently, but am surrendering to this autumn season and using this autumn season to surrender to what is, so that I can rest even more into the winter season and just trust that everything is working in divine timing. And just like the plant grows from the seed, everything has its place and has its way. And the more that we connect to nature or the natural world and the natural environment that is around us, that we surround ourselves in, we can get to know ourselves a little bit deeper and then find our way.
And one surefire way to help you find your way is by leaving us a nice review.
That is correct. And go listen back to episodes 1 through to 67. 60. This is 68.
This is 68. So you listen to this one again.
Yeah, well, you can just listen again. Yeah. Anyway, guys, we've enjoyed being here today. Thanks for listening along. Thanks for being on our journey. And
See you next time.
You've been listening to The Wizard and the Priestess. Thanks for stopping by. Stay connected and be open.